Okay, now we've got some additional information. We have Bob Company has accounts receivable of $80,000 at May 31st. And an analysis of the account shows some various information about our sales for May, April, March, and prior to March, and what those balances were. Credit terms are given in May 31st. Our allowance for doubtful account has a credit balance of $1,000, which I've put up here, prior to adjustment. And the company is using the percentage of receivables basis for estimating uncollectible accounts. The company's estimate of bad debts is as follows, and they tell us at what age of account, what percentage they believe is uncollectible. So we're going to go ahead and determine what dollar amount that's going to be. So for 1 to 30 days, which is going to be for us the month of May, 1% is uncollectible. So we're going to take the $50,000 of sales for May, multiply that by 1%, and we get $500. 31 to 60 days is going to be our April sales. So we're going to go ahead and take that $15,000, multiply that by 6%, that's for 31 to 60 days age of accounts, and that is going to give us $900. Can then go on and look at 61 to 90 days, which is going to end up being the March sales, which are $10,000. And there is 35% of those will be uncollectible. So if we multiply that by 35% or by 0.35, we get 3,500. The last one, over 90 days. If it's over 90 days, and that's anything prior to March, so that's $5,000 worth of sales, 49% of those are estimated as uncollectible. So that will be $2,450. So that gives us a total $7,350. This is the amount we want for our allowance, right? Now, what do we already have in here? We already have a $1,000 credit, right? So we're going to take $7,350, subtract the $1,000 we already have, and that means we want $6,350 of bad debt expense as a credit. And we'll go as a, bad debt expense, $6,350 as a debit. And then our allowance for doubtful accounts will be a $6,350 credit. This is similar to homework problem 3. And the example we just did, there are parts of part 2 of the video that would cover homework problem 2. And I should say, I thought it was clear, but maybe I should just mention this. Also, there were parts in the first video that would cover homework problem 5. So in case it wasn't clear, you might want to look that over when you're doing homework problem 5, just for an example. What I want to tell you just briefly is the way this works is accounts receivable. Let's say our accounts receivable balance is $20,000. And our allowance for doubtful accounts, we'll say, is $2,000. What we'll do is it'll show on the balance sheet in this manner, and then the net amount will show right next to it. And of course this is going to show on the balance sheet as part of your current assets. So for example, maybe you'd have cash, you'd have amount there, I don't know, maybe you'd have prepaid expenses, you'd have inventory, of course, and you'd have your various accounts. But we would have, as I said, this would show as a net amount. You take into consideration the account, the actual accounts receivable, and then subtract out for the allowance for doubtful accounts, and then just show the net amount on the balance sheet. Okay, so there's just two more quick ones I wanted to go over, and then I'm going to do a separate video for homework examples for problem 1 and 6. But everything we've talked about so far should get you through the homework for problems 2, 3, 4, and 5. The only other thing you might want to be aware of when you're doing problem number 4, just some things I might want to mention. They start off giving you an end-of-year balance. That end-of-year balance is the beginning of the next year's balance. And you're going to have to keep track. In allowance for doubtful accounts, we already put up there. You're going to have to keep track. In problem number 4, you're going to have to keep track of the various credits and debits you make so that you know what your total is and how much more you're going to have to credit or debit, as the case may be. But how much more you're going to have to go ahead and credit or debit to get the total balance amount that they want you to achieve. So you're just going to have to just make sure you start off with that end of year balance you're given, and make sure as you're debiting and crediting, I think you might debit it once and credit it once, your allowance for doubtful accounts, make sure you kind of keep track of a debit or credit on the T account so you know what your balance is and you know what you have to do to get to the balance they want. If you're going to have to credit it, and if so, how much you have to credit it by. But if you keep track of it, you should be fine. Okay, so if you do have questions, feel free to call me. And I'm going to go over one last part of this, and then we'll move on to the homework problems.